The ballroom of the Grand Brighton Hotel was transformed into a true Christmas fairy tale. Golden lights hung from the high ceiling, reflecting in the crystal chandeliers that seemed to capture and multiply every sparkle. The orchestra played a soft version of Silent Night, while waiters circulated with trays of French champagne and sophisticated canapés. The event gathered the business elite of Brighton, all in their impeccable attire, calculated smiles, and conversations that drifted between business and trivialities. In the center of that sea of people, Raphael Alistair Sterling stood with a glass of Scotch whisky in his hand, observing everything with eyes that seemed to see beyond the scene. At 43, he was the owner of Sterling Constructions, one of the largest construction firms in the country, responsible for erecting skyscrapers that reshaped the Brighton skyline. His navy Italian suit was impeccable. The Swiss watch on his wrist was worth more than a middle-class apartment, but none of it could disguise the shadow that hung over his face. It had been 8 months since Marianne had left, 8 months since cancer had won the battle, and taken with it not only his wife but the light that gave meaning to all those material achievements. Raphael looked at those people laughing, toasting, flirting, and felt like a foreigner in his own world. Every smile directed at him seemed rehearsed, every conversation sounded artificial. A woman in a red dress approached, her eyes shining with ill-disguised interest. Perfectly styled blonde hair, eye-catching jewelry, an expensive perfume that preceded her arrival. "Raphael, darling, long time no see. You look absolutely stunning. I imagine you must be besieged by everyone here. A man like you, successful, available?" Raphael forced a polite smile. "Penelope, good evening. Thank you for the compliment. The party is beautiful, don't you think?" She didn't catch or chose to ignore the distant tone. "Absolutely stunning, but I confess I only came because I heard you would be here. You know, I've been thinking about you a lot. It must be so difficult to be alone. If you need company for events like this or for anything, you can count on me. I'm a great listener." Raphael knew exactly what that kind of conversation meant. There was no genuine interest in his pain, in who he really was. He represented status, financial security, access to a world of luxury. He was seen as a prize to be won, not as a wounded human being trying to survive each day. Before he could reply, a heavy hand landed on his shoulder. It was Marcus Thompson, his partner and best friend since university. Tall, with a well-trimmed beard and a wide smile, Marcus had the ability to light up any room. "Penelope, may I steal my friend for a moment? Urgent work matters, you understand." She smiled, annoyed, but moved away with a wave, promising to return. Marcus led Raphael to a less crowded area, near the glass doors that led to one of the outdoor balconies. "You need to stop running away from people, Raph. I know it still hurts, but you can't lock yourself away forever. Life goes on, business goes on. Being here, circulating, maintaining connections, it's important. And believe me, finding someone who makes you smile again wouldn't be a betrayal of Marianne. She wouldn't want to see you like this." Raphael took a long sip of his whiskey. "Marcus, I appreciate your concern, truly. But these women don't see me. They see my bank account, my properties, my surname. Marianne knew me before I had all this. She loved me when I was still building the first building and could barely pay the bills. These people here, they just want the ready-made package." Marcus sighed. "Not all of them are like that. But you also need to open up. Give it a chance. You just keep walking in circles with that funeral face. Relax a little, come on." Raphael didn't answer. Instead, his eyes swept the room once more, looking for an escape route. That's when he noticed the slightly ajar glass doors leading to a less crowded side balcony. Without saying anything, he moved away from Marcus and walked in that direction, ignoring the curious glances that followed him. The balcony was a breath of fresh air. The muffled sound of the party faded behind him, replaced by the distant murmur of the sea and the cool Brighton evening breeze. Raphael leaned on the marble railing, watching the lights of Marine Parade below. He took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind, when he heard soft footsteps behind him. A young woman, wearing the black and white uniform of the catering staff hired for the event, was collecting empty glasses that had been left on a small side table. She hadn't seen him initially, focused on her task. When she finally looked up and noticed his presence, she gave a small jump of surprise. "Excuse me, sir. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm just leaving." Raphael studied her for a moment. She must have been around 25, perhaps less. Brown hair pulled back in a simple bun, no elaborate makeup, just a natural and clean appearance. But what captivated him were her eyes. There was a deep weariness in them, an exhaustion he recognized because he saw the same thing in the mirror every morning. It wasn't just the physical fatigue of a long day's work. It was something older, more deeply rooted in the soul. "You're not disturbing me. You can continue your work." She hesitated, then nodded and returned to collecting the glasses with quick, efficient movements. Raphael noticed how she moved, almost invisibly, without drawing attention, always maintaining a respectful and professional demeanor. There was no attempt to flirt, no interested glance, no calculated smile, just someone doing her duty with dignity. "It's cold out here. Don't you want to go back inside?" She stopped, clearly surprised that he had struck up a conversation. "I'm fine, sir. Thank you for your concern. I'll finish here and go back to the ballroom." Raphael nodded but said nothing more. He just watched as she finished arranging the glasses on her tray. Before leaving, she gave a slight bow and withdrew, disappearing back into the dazzling glow of the party. He stood there, thoughtful. There was something about that brief interaction that intrigued him. Perhaps it was the absence of masks, of hidden interests, or perhaps it was recognizing in another person the same silent weight he carried. Raphael remained on the balcony for a few more minutes, but knew he couldn't hide forever. Reluctantly, he returned to the ballroom where Marcus was already waiting for him with another important businessman who wanted to discuss a partnership. The next few hours dragged on in automatic conversations about percentages, deadlines, and profits. And all that time, without realizing why, his eyes occasionally sought the discreet figure of that waitress among the crowd, observing how she moved with a silent grace and a resilience that aroused his curiosity in ways he didn't yet fully understand. The party was at its peak when the incident happened. Raphael was near the main bar, half distractedly listening to an investor talk about opportunities in the Manchester property market, when a sudden movement caught his attention. He immediately recognized the woman in red who had tried to win him over earlier, Penelope, now visibly altered by champagne. She gesticulated animatedly, telling some story to a group of friends, her hands describing wide circles in the air. And it was then that it happened. The waitress Raphael had seen on the balcony was passing exactly behind Penelope, carrying a tray with red wine glasses. Penelope's arm extended backward without warning, colliding forcefully with the tray. Balance was instantly lost. The glasses flew and the red wine spread like a crimson cascade, hitting Raphael's white shirt full on. The entire ballroom seemed to freeze. All conversations ceased. All eyes turned to the scene. Raphael looked down, seeing the dark liquid run down his chest, staining the expensive Italian fabric. But before he could process what had happened, Penelope's shrill voice cut through the silence. "My God, how preposterous! How can you be so clumsy? Look what you've done. This shirt must cost more than your entire year's salary." The waitress was pale, the empty tray trembling in her hands. "I'm so sorry. I didn't—" A man in a black suit, clearly the catering supervisor, appeared running, his face red with anger and panic. "Isabella, what incompetence is this? You're fired. Get out of here immediately." Penelope continued her attack now with an audience. "This is unacceptable. These people have no training at all. Raphael, darling, you should sue this company. Look how they ruined your outfit." Raphael watched the scene unfold. He saw the despair in the young woman's eyes, whom he now knew was named Isabella. He saw Penelope's ill-disguised satisfaction at being the center of attention and being able to express indignation on his behalf. He saw the supervisor about to drag the employee out of the ballroom, and something inside him broke. "All of you can calm down now." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that made everyone instantly silent. Raphael stepped forward, wiping the wine from his shirt with a napkin, his face completely serene. "It wasn't her fault. Penelope, you hit her arm when you were gesticulating. I saw everything clearly. It was an accident caused by your movement, not by the employee. Penelope's mouth fell open, shocked, her indignant expression turning into embarrassment. But Raphael, I didn't. As for my shirt, it's just a shirt. I have dozens of the same at home. It's of no importance whatsoever. He turned to the supervisor, who now seemed to not know where to look. And you, sir, are not firing anyone. Your employee was doing her job perfectly. If anyone should apologize here, it's the guests who don't pay attention to their surroundings. The silence was absolute. Raphael then turned to Isabella, who seemed about to faint from relief and surprise. His eyes met hers, and he saw tears forming, which she bravely fought to hold back. What's your full name? Isabella. Isabella Rosewood, sir. Isabella, you are not to blame. You can rest assured. No one is going to fire you for an accident you didn't cause. It's all right. His voice was soft now, almost paternal. Isabella nodded, unable to speak, and the supervisor, clearly relieved not to lose the £1,000,000 contract, hurried to take her back to the kitchen. Raphael watched her leave, then swept the room with his eyes. People quickly returned to their conversations, embarrassed to have witnessed Penelope's mortification. Marcus appeared beside Raphael, a discreet smile on his lips. That was noble of you, mate, and necessary. That Penelope is unbearable. Raphael didn't answer. His thoughts were already elsewhere. He had seen Isabella's gaze, gratitude mixed with astonishment, as if she wasn't used to being defended, to being treated with dignity, and that deeply bothered him. How much later, he couldn't say, but he could no longer feign interest in the conversations around him. He excused himself from Marcus and the group of businessmen, claiming he needed to clean himself up better, and left the main ballroom. He didn't have a specific destination in mind, but his feet led him through the service corridors, instinctively following the path he had seen Isabella take. He passed hurried cooks, stacks of plates, until he found an emergency staircase at the back, and there, sitting on the concrete steps illuminated only by a cold fluorescent light, she was. Isabella had her face hidden in her hands, her shoulders trembling slightly. She wasn't crying loudly, but silent tears streamed between her fingers. Raphael stopped on the last step before the landing where she was, not knowing exactly what to say. Then, softly, he cleared his throat. She lifted her face abruptly, quickly wiping away the tears with the back of her hand. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here. I just needed a minute." "You don't need to apologize. May I sit?" Isabella blinked, confused, but nodded. Raphael sat on the step beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. The silence was not uncomfortable, just necessary. "Thank you for what you did in there. I really wasn't at fault, but no one would have believed me. If you hadn't spoken up, I would have lost this job, and I can't lose this job. I need it." Raphael observed her. Up close, he could better see the details he had noticed on the balcony. The discreet dark circles under her eyes, the calloused hands of someone who works hard, the posture of someone accustomed to carrying weights much heavier than trays. "How many jobs do you have, Isabella?" She hesitated, then replied with simple honesty. 3. I work mornings at a cafe near Victoria Station, afternoons at a popular restaurant in the city centre, and I do events at night when opportunities arise, like this one, and I still study at night when there's no event. Raphael felt something tighten in his chest. 3 jobs and university. "And how old are you?" 24. I turned 25 in March. "And your family?" "It's just me and my grandmother. My mother passed away when I was 12. My father, well, he left before that and never came back. My grandmother raised me, but now she's sick. She has diabetes and high blood pressure. She can't work anymore, so I'm the one who takes care of her." Isabella spoke without self-pity, merely stating facts as one describes the weather. But Raphael, who had spent 8 months submerged in his own pain, recognized there a different but equally profound pain. It was the pain of loneliness, of premature responsibility, of having to be strong when all you want to do is collapse. "I understand what it's like to feel alone, even when surrounded by people," Raphael said, surprising himself with his own honesty. At that party, there are hundreds of people. But I've never felt so invisible. They don't see me. They see my money, my company, my status. But who? I really am what I feel. That doesn't matter to anyone. Isabella looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time since Marianne had left, Raphael felt that someone truly saw him. Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible too. I serve drinks, clear tables, and people look through me, as if I were part of the furniture. But in a way it's safer that way. If no one sees you, no one can hurt you, right? Raphael nodded slowly. Yes, but it's also very lonely. They sat there, two strangers from completely different worlds, united by the same essential loneliness. The days following that night were strange for Raphael. He tried to resume his usual routine of endless meetings, project analyses, and business decisions that moved millions, but his mind kept returning to that emergency staircase, to that honest and raw conversation with a young woman who had no reason to trust him, but did anyway. He found himself thinking about her words, about the silent strength that emanated from someone who worked 3 shifts and still found energy to study at night. On Thursday morning, during a meeting with Japanese investors, Marcus noticed that Raphael was particularly distracted. After the foreigners left, he closed the meeting room door and crossed his arms. All right, spit it out. What's going on? You've been on another planet for days, and don't give me that everything's fine story, because I've known you for 20 years. Raphael sighed, loosening his tie. Do you remember that waitress, the one from the wine incident? The girl Penelope tried to humiliate, I remember. What about her? I talked to her afterward. And, Marcus, for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I was talking to someone real, someone who doesn't want anything from me besides an honest conversation. I can't get her out of my head. Marcus raised his eyebrows, surprised. Mate, are you interested in her? I don't know if it's that. I just know I need to see her again. I need to know if that connection I felt was real, or if I was just desperate for something authentic. Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. Then go after her. Find out where she works. Ask her out for coffee. What's the problem? The problem is that she lives in a completely different world from mine. She has 3 jobs, takes care of a sick grandmother, studies at night. What am I going to do? Show up at her workplace in my luxury car and scare her? Make her think I'm some kind of millionaire stalker? Marcus laughed. You're overthinking it. If you like the simplicity of talking to her, be simple. Find out where she works, go there, apologize for showing up unannounced, and invite her for coffee. If she agrees, great. If not, at least you tried. Raphael considered his friend's words. It made sense. He didn't need to do anything grand or intimidating. He just needed to be honest about wanting to see her again. With a little discreet investigation through the catering staff who had worked the party, Raphael discovered that Isabella worked at a popular restaurant called the Daily Plate in Brighton's city centre. It was a simple establishment, frequented mainly by workers during lunch hours, offering food by weight at affordable prices. On Friday at noon, Raphael parked his Mercedes 3 blocks before the restaurant and walked the rest of the way. He wore only jeans and a polo shirt, no flashy watch, trying to look as ordinary as possible. Even so, he knew he stood out. There was something in the way he carried himself, in the quality of his clothes, that screamed privilege. The restaurant was small, with formica tables and plastic chairs. The smell of seasoned beans and grilled steak filled the air. Raphael entered, and his eyes immediately found Isabella behind the counter, serving food onto customers' plates. She wore a patterned apron over a simple t-shirt, her hair tied in a ponytail. She was focused, smiling politely at an elderly gentleman while serving a generous portion of rice. When she looked up and saw him standing at the entrance, her expression changed completely. First came shock, then something akin to panic. She spoke quickly to a colleague and came out from behind the counter, approaching him with rapid steps. Her eyes darted around the restaurant, checking if anyone was paying attention. "Mr. Sterling, what are you doing here? Did something happen?" Her voice was low, urgent. Raphael noticed her discomfort and felt like an idiot for not having thought better about how to approach this. "Isabella, I'm sorry to show up like this unannounced. I wanted to see you again. I wanted to know if you were okay after that night." She blinked, incredulous. You came all the way here to know if I'm okay? I did, and to apologize for the behavior of those people at the party, and also because, well, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. It was the first time in a long time that I felt a real connection with someone. Isabella looked around nervously. People were starting to stare, curious about the man clearly out of place talking to the employee. Mr. Sterling, I really appreciate your concern, but you can't be here. People will start talking. They'll make up stories. I work here. I need to maintain my reputation. Raphael understood immediately. Of course, my apologies. I didn't think of that. But Isabella, I would really like to see you again, in a neutral place where you feel comfortable, just to talk. She hesitated, biting her lower lip. Mr. Sterling, we come from completely different worlds. You are a millionaire businessman. I am a waitress who can barely pay the bills. What do you want from me? The question was direct and fair. Raphael took a deep breath. I want nothing more than to get to know you better. No ulterior motives, no expectations in return. You showed me something on that staircase that I hadn't seen in a long time, genuine humanity. And I would like to reciprocate by being a friend, if you'll allow me. Isabella studied his face for a long moment. Raphael could see the conflict in her eyes, distrust battling something softer, perhaps hope. Finally, she sighed. I study at night at the University of Brighton. I'm doing education. I leave at 10:30. If you really want to talk, you can meet me at the university exit tonight. But only to talk, is that clear? Completely clear, I'll be there. Isabella nodded and quickly returned to the counter, where her colleague bombarded her with animated, whispered questions. Raphael left the restaurant, a discreet smile on his lips. It was a start. That night, Raphael parked across the street from the University of Brighton. It was 10:20. He waited, leaning against a lamppost, watching students leave the building in noisy groups. When he saw Isabella emerge, carrying a heavy backpack on her shoulders, he waved. She saw him, said something quick to her friends who were with her, and crossed the street. She looked tired, the dark circles more pronounced under the yellow lamplight. You actually came. I said I would. Are you hungry? We could go somewhere to eat something. Isabella shook her head. I already had dinner during my break, but we can walk a bit if you like. They began to walk side by side through the university district streets. Raphael kept his hands in his pockets, respecting her space. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, it was Isabella who broke the silence. Why are you doing this, really? A man like you doesn't need to. Chase after waitresses for company. Raphael stopped walking and turned to her. Isabella, do you want the full truth? I lost my wife 8 months ago. Cancer. And since then, I've been living on autopilot. Work, meetings, social events, everything feels empty. The people around me only see opportunities, someone to impress or use. But when I talked to you on that staircase, you treated me like a human being, not like a bank account. And that simplicity, that honesty, is something I had forgotten could exist. That's why I'm here. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She looked away, quickly wiping them. I'm so sorry about your wife. I know what it's like to lose someone you love. My mother was everything to me. When she left, it was as if the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. Raphael dared to take a step closer. Then you understand. You understand that feeling of being lost? Isabella nodded. I do, yes. She took a deep breath and faced him. All right. We can be friends. But you need to understand that my life is complicated. I have responsibilities. I can't just drop everything and go out whenever you want to see me. I don't expect that. I'll adapt to your routine, I promise. Isabella smiled for the first time since he arrived, a small but genuine smile. Then let's see where this goes. The following weeks brought a routine Raphael had never imagined having. He, who was accustomed to dining in Michelin-starred restaurants and attending exclusive events, now found true joy in the simple moments he managed to snatch from Isabella's tight schedule. They communicated mainly through text messages throughout the day, short but meaningful exchanges that punctuated both their work hours. Good morning. How was your sleep? Raphael would write, upon waking. Short, as always, but thank you for asking. And you? Isabella would reply during her morning cafe break. Please, call me Raphael. That sir thing makes me feel 100 years old. Okay, Raphael. It still sounds strange, but I'll get used to it. Raphael discovered that Isabella had a subtle sense of humor and a perspective on life that fascinated him. She could find beauty in the simplest things. A sunset seen from the bus window, a song playing on the restaurant radio, a joke an elderly customer told. For someone who faced daily difficulties that most people couldn't even imagine, she maintained an impressive capacity for gratitude. Their first official date happened at a coffee shop near her university during her class break. It was a modest place with small tables and uncomfortable chairs, but for Raphael it was perfect precisely because it was ordinary. He arrived 15 minutes early, nervous as a teenager on a first date. When Isabella entered, her hair still damp from the rain outside, her eyes searched for him and lit up when she found him. They talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing. Raphael spoke about his childhood in Chelsea, the son of a lawyer and a music teacher, growing up with privileges but also with the pressure to meet family expectations. He told her how he met Marianne at university, studying civil engineering, when she was one of the few women in the course, brilliant and determined. How they had built the company together, working 18 hours a day in the early years, sleeping in the office when necessary. I regret a lot of that now, Raphael confessed, stirring his cold coffee. Having worked so much, Marianne always said we needed to slow down, travel more, enjoy what we had achieved. But I always thought there was time. Always one more project, one more deal to close. And when I finally realized time was running out, when the diagnosis came, it was already too late. I have all these achievements, all this money, but what I wouldn't give to have one more day with her without thinking about work, just being the two of us. Isabella held his hand across the table, a simple but deeply comforting gesture. You can't change the past, but you can honor her memory by living differently now, don't you think? Raphael squeezed, her hand back, grateful for the non-judgmental understanding. And you? What makes you happy, Isabella? In the midst of all this rush, what keeps you going? She thought for a moment. My grandmother, knowing that I can take care of her, that she is safe and comfortable because of my effort. And my studies. I always wanted to be a teacher, to work with children. My mother was a nursery assistant. She loved it. She used to say that every child was an entire universe waiting to be discovered. When I graduate and can teach, it will be like fulfilling her dream too. That keeps me awake, you know, knowing that all this has a purpose. Raphael looked at the young woman sitting in front of him with her simple clothes and worn backpack, and felt a deep admiration. She had so little in material terms, but possessed a richness of spirit that he had lost somewhere along the way. You are incredible. Do you know that? Not many people could endure what you endure and still maintain hope. Isabella blushed. I just do what needs to be done. I'm not special. You are very special. They met a few more times over the following weeks. Raphael learned to respect her tight schedule, never pushing for more time than she could give. One evening he took her to dinner at a neighborhood pizza place that Isabella loved, a place with checkered tablecloths and waiters who knew all the customers by name. Raphael, who was accustomed to exquisite restaurants with sommeliers and tasting menus, discovered that the best pizza he had ever eaten in his life was the one shared with Isabella, laughing at silly stories and sharing a pitcher of soda. It was during that dinner that Isabella finally opened up about her family situation. My mother passed away suddenly, a heart problem no one knew she had. One day she was there, taking care of me, picking me up from school, and the next, she just didn't wake up. I was 12. My father, he couldn't cope with the pain. He started drinking, disappearing for days, until one day he simply didn't come back. He left a letter saying he couldn't look at me anymore because I reminded him too much of her. How cruel, Raphael said, anger evident in his voice. You were a child. You needed him. Isabella shrugged, but Raphael could see the old hurt in her eyes. It was Grandma Laura who saved me. She took me in, raised me with the little she had. She worked as a seamstress, until her hands started hurting too much. She never let me feel a lack of love, even when there wasn't enough food on the table. That's why I do what I do now. It's my turn to take care of her." Raphael felt something change within him at that moment. It wasn't just admiration or sympathy. It was something deeper, a need. Protect, to be by the side of that extraordinary woman. "Isabella, I know you are proud and independent, but please let me help in some way. It doesn't have to be financial if that bothers you, but perhaps I can use my contacts to get you a better job, or help with your grandmother's medication, or—" Isabella interrupted gently. "Raphael, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, but I need to do this myself. If I accept your help now, it will start to confuse things. Our friendship will turn into some kind of charity, and I don't want that. I want you to see me as an equal, not as a social assistance project. I see you as an equal, as someone who inspires me more than any millionaire businessman I've ever met, but I understand. I will respect your decision." "Thank you. That means a lot to me." A month after their first meeting at the coffee shop, Raphael gathered the courage to make a more significant invitation. "Isabella, I would like to meet your grandmother. If you allow it, of course. I feel she's such an important part of your life that I want to better understand who you are through her." Isabella was surprised. "You want to meet Grandma Laura, even knowing that we live in a very simple house, in a modest working-class district on the outskirts? I don't care where you live. I care about who you are. And if your grandmother is as special as you say, I'd love to meet her." Isabella studied his face, looking for signs of condescension or pity, but found only sincerity. "All right, but I warn you, she's going to interrogate you. Grandma doesn't mince words." Raphael laughed. "I'm ready for the interrogation." A few days later, on a Sunday morning, Raphael took an Uber to the address Isabella had sent him. He deliberately didn't go in his own car, not wanting to attract unnecessary attention. The house was small but well-maintained, with window boxes of flowers and a recent coat of paint. Isabella opened the door, visibly nervous. "Come in. She's in the living room." The living room was cozy, filled with old photographs on the walls and a sofa covered with a crocheted blanket. Sitting in an armchair, with a shawl over her shoulders, was Grandma Laura. She must have been about 70, her completely white hair tied in a bun, dark, penetrating eyes that assessed Raphael from head to toe in seconds. "So you're the Raphael my granddaughter keeps mentioning. Sit down. I want to talk to you." Raphael sat on the sofa, aware that he was being subjected to the most important scrutiny of his life. Grandma Laura was not a woman to beat around the bush. Her wrinkled hands held a cup of coffee, but her eyes never stopped studying the man in front of her. "Isabella told me about you, rich man, widower, owner of a big company. What does a man like that want with my granddaughter? She has no money, no connections. She just has a difficult life and a lot of hard work ahead of her." Raphael took a deep breath, knowing that only the truth would suffice. "Grandma Laura, I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I met Isabella, I was lost. My wife had passed away, and I felt as if I was just existing, not living. Your granddaughter showed me that genuine goodness still exists in the world. She treated me as a person, not as a wallet. And the more get to know her, the more I admire her strength, her dignity, the way she faces difficulties without losing her humanity. I want nothing from her beyond her company. I want to be someone she can trust, someone who values who she truly is." Beautiful words, but words are easy. What are you willing to do for real? Because my Isabella has suffered too much in life. Her father abandoned her. She had to grow up too fast, work when she should have been playing. If you're going to enter her life, you have to be sure you can't play with her feelings and then leave when you get tired. I won't get tired, and I understand your concern. If I were in your shoes, I would also be suspicious. But I promise my intentions are honest. I don't want to change Isabella's life. I want to be a part of it just as it is." Grandma Laura observed him for another long moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll give you a chance. But know that if you hurt my girl, you'll have to answer to me. And I may be old, but I still have a sharp tongue." Raphael smiled. "Genuinely, I wouldn't expect anything less from you. And thank you for the opportunity." Isabella appeared from the kitchen with a tray of homemade cookies, clearly relieved that the conversation hadn't devolved into conflict. "Grandma, don't scare him right away." "I'm not scaring him, I'm getting to know him, there's a difference." Grandma Laura took a cookie and offered the tray to Raphael. "Eat. Isabella made them. She's a great cook." The rest of the morning passed in a lighter atmosphere. Grandma Laura told stories of Isabella's childhood, funny and touching moments that painted an even more complete portrait of the woman Raphael was getting to know. He heard how Isabella sold lemonade at her doorstep at 10 years old to help with expenses, how she stayed up studying by candlelight when there was a power outage, how she cried with joy when she got a partial scholarship to university. When Raphael stood to leave at the end of the afternoon, Grandma Laura called him aside, away from Isabella. "Listen to me. You seem like a good man, but your life and hers are very different. If you really care, you'll have to understand that it's not just about taking her out of her reality. Isabella has pride. She has dignity. She won't accept being saved like she's a princess in distress. If you want to be with her for real, you'll have to respect her journey." "I understand, Grandma Laura, and I will do exactly that." In the following months, Raphael proved his words with actions. He learned Isabella's routine by heart and adapted to it. On days she worked late, he would pick her up in his car and ensure she got home safely. When she had university exams, he would show up with coffee and snacks, but remained silent while she studied in a nearby library. He never pressured, never tried to change her life with grand financial gestures that she would clearly reject. But there was something Raphael was secretly planning, waiting for the right moment. Isabella was in her final semester of education, and her graduation was scheduled for December. He knew through her casual comments that Isabella didn't have money to buy a suitable dress for the ceremony and planned to wear the same simple dress she had worn for her high school graduation. This broke Raphael's heart. 2 weeks before the graduation, he went to a discreet boutique in Mayfair. He explained the situation to the owner, an elegant lady who immediately understood what he needed. "I don't want anything ostentatious. I want an elegant but simple dress, something that makes her feel special, but not uncomfortable. I don't want it to seem like charity. I want it to be a celebration of her achievement." The owner helped him choose a classic navy blue dress, elegant without being flashy, with quality fabric but a timeless design. Raphael also bought a pair of comfortable low-heeled shoes to match. He wrapped everything carefully and waited for the right moment. 3 days before the graduation, he met Isabella after her classes. She was particularly tired, with deep dark circles under her eyes. Raphael held her hand. "I have something for you, but before you refuse, let me explain. Your graduation is a huge achievement. You've worked harder than anyone I know to get here, and I want to celebrate that with you, not as charity, but as someone who deeply admires you." He handed her the box. Isabella opened it slowly, and her eyes filled with tears when she saw the dress. "Raphael, I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not. You deserve to feel special that day. Please accept it. It's not about money. It's about honoring everything you've accomplished." Isabella held the dress against her chest, tears now streaming freely. "Thank you. Not just for the dress, but for understanding how much this means to me." On graduation day, Raphael sat beside Grandma Laura in the university auditorium. When Isabella walked onto the stage to receive her diploma, both stood up applauding. Raphael felt a deep emotion seeing that extraordinary woman, dressed in the blue gown he had chosen, holding her diploma with pride and tears of joy. She looked for him in the audience, and when their eyes met, her smile lit up the entire auditorium. After the ceremony, there was a simple dinner at a nearby restaurant, just Raphael, Isabella, and Grandma Laura. They toasted with orange juice, laughed at old stories, and Raphael felt like he was part of a real family for the first time since losing Marianne. Grandma Laura retired early, tired but happy, and Raphael took Isabella for a last stroll before taking her home. They went to a viewpoint overlooking the city lights. The wind was cool, and Raphael took off his jacket, placing it over Isabella's shoulders. For a long moment they just stood there, side by side, watching the city stretch out before them like a carpet of earthly stars. "Isabella, I need to tell you something," Raphael began, his voice soft but firm. "These past few months with you have changed my life. You showed me that it's possible to feel again, to live again. You brought color back to a world that had turned gray. And I know our story is unusual, that we come from very different places, but none of that matters because what I feel for you is real." He turned to face her. "I love you, Isabella. I love you for your strength, for your kindness, for the way you face the world with dignity, even when everything is against you. I love you for the way you take care of your grandmother, for your dream of teaching children, for every honest conversation we've had. And I know it might be too soon or too complicated, but I needed you to know." Isabella was crying again, but this time they were tears of pure joy. "Raphael, you too. I'm afraid to admit it because it seems impossible, but it's true. You saw me when I was invisible. You treated me with respect when the world treated me as if I didn't matter. You didn't try to save me or change me. You just stood by my side. And that's what makes it all worthwhile." They embraced, holding each other as if anchoring themselves against all the storms the world could throw at them. And on that viewpoint, under the brightened stars, two hearts that had known loneliness and pain finally found a home in each other. The months that followed Isabella's graduation brought significant changes for both of them, but in ways neither expected. Raphael, faithful to the promise he had made to himself and to Marianne in thought, began to restructure his professional life. He promoted Marcus to executive director, delegating responsibilities and learning to trust that the company would not collapse without his constant presence. For the first time in 15 years, he began working only in the mornings, reserving afternoons and evenings for what truly mattered: living. Isabella, newly graduated, got a job as an assistant teacher at a municipal school near home. The salary wasn't great, but it was enough for her to quit 2 of her 3 jobs, keeping only the schoolwork and occasional event shifts on weekends. For the first time since she was 12, she had time to breathe, to sleep 8 hours, to simply exist without the constant pressure of survival. Raphael and Isabella established a routine that worked for both of them. He would pick her up from school at 3 in the afternoon, and they would spend their afternoons together, sometimes simply walking along the beach, other times visiting Grandma Laura, who insisted on cooking for them, even when Raphael offered to bring food from restaurants. The matriarch had developed a genuine affection for Raphael, treating him not as the millionaire he was, but as a grandson who needed to be well fed and occasionally reprimanded when he worked too much. It was during one of these afternoons, 3 months after the declaration at the viewpoint, that the unexpected twist happened. Raphael and Isabella were in Grandma Laura's kitchen preparing dinner together when the doorbell rang. Isabella went to answer it, and Raphael heard a male voice he didn't recognize. Curious, he dried his hands and went to the living room. A man in his 50s stood at the door, thin with disheveled grey hair and simple but clean clothes. He held a cap in his hands, twisting it nervously. But what caught Raphael's attention was the expression of absolute shock on Isabella's face. She was pale, one hand on the wall as if needing support not to fall. "Dad?" The word came out as an incredulous whisper. The man swallowed hard. "Hi, Isa. I know I have no right to be here, but I needed to see you. I needed to apologize." Grandma Laura appeared from the kitchen, and her face transformed into a mask of anger. "You have the nerve to show up here after 12 years, after abandoning your daughter when she needed you most." "I know, Grandma Laura. I know I was a coward. I know I was a terrible father. But I'm different now. I stopped drinking. I'm in therapy. And every day for all these years, I thought about Isabella. I thought about how much I messed everything up." Raphael instinctively moved to stand beside Isabella, who seemed to be in a state of shock. She looked at him, her eyes full of confusion and pain. Raphael held her hand, a silent gesture of support. Isabella finally found her voice, though it trembled. "Why now? Why after all this time do you decide to show up?" Her father took a deep breath. "Because I heard you graduated. I have a cousin who lives nearby, she told me, and I realized I lost everything, all the important moments. Your 15th birthday, your high school graduation, now your university graduation. I lost everything because I was a coward who couldn't deal with the pain. And I know I can't go back. I know I can't fix what I did. But I needed to see you to apologize and to tell you that I'm so sorry, truly sorry. Grandma Laura crossed her arms. Apologies don't pay the bills I paid. They don't fill the stomachs I filled. They don't dry the tears I dried. You abandoned your daughter, Roger. You abandoned her when she was 12 and heartbroken. I know, and I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. He looked at Isabella, tears streaming down his face. Isa, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to let me be part of your life. I just wanted you to know that I love you, I always have, even when I was too weak to show it, and that I'm very proud of the woman you've become, not because of me, but despite me. Isabella was crying now, the full weight of the years of abandonment coming to the surface. Raphael enveloped her in his arms, letting her cry against his chest. Over her head, he looked at Isabella's father. You hurt her deeply. You hurt her in a way that no apology will completely fix. I know, the man replied, his voice broken. I know. Isabella pulled away from Raphael, wiping her face. Dad, you destroyed me when you left. I was a child. I needed you, and you chose your pain instead of me. That cannot be forgotten. I know, daughter, I know. But, she continued, her voice growing firmer, I also know what it's like to carry pain, and I know that holding on to anger only hurts me more. So I don't know if I can forgive you now. It will take time, but maybe with time we can try to build something. I won't pretend those 12 years didn't exist, but I also won't let them define the rest of my life. Her father sobbed, covering his face with his hands. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance. Grandma Laura intervened, her voice still stern but with a hint of compassion. Roger, you can visit, but only when Isabella allows it, and if you disappear again, if you hurt her again, there will be no second chance. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. After Isabella's father left, promising to call before any future visits, Isabella collapsed onto the sofa. Raphael sat beside her, and she nestled against him. I don't know how I feel. I'm angry, relieved, confused, all at the same time. It's normal. It was a lot to take in. But you were amazing. You were strong and honest. Do you think I'm wrong to give him a chance, after everything? Raphael kissed the top of her head. I think you're being human and courageous. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or accepting what he did. It means choosing not to let anger control your life. It's your decision, and I will support you no matter what you decide. Thank you for being here, for not judging me. Always, my love. Always. In the weeks that followed, life found a new balance. Isabella's father visited once a week, always with prior permission. Conversations were initially tense and superficial, but gradually began to gain depth. He spoke about his journey over the past 12 years, the mistakes he made, how he hit rock bottom, and finally decided to seek help. Isabella listened, sometimes with anger, sometimes with sadness, but always with the dignity that defined her. Raphael observed everything with admiration. He had thought he knew strength when he built his business, empire. But this was real strength, the ability to face your pain head-on and choose to grow instead of shrinking. Isabella was teaching him about forgiveness, about humanity, about choosing hope, even when it would be easier to choose bitterness. On a Saturday morning, 6 months after Isabella's father reappeared, Raphael woke up in the simpler home he now kept, a comfortable but unostentatious penthouse in Notting Hill. Isabella was sleeping beside him, her hair spread on the pillow, her face peaceful in sleep. They had spent the previous night watching old movies and eating popcorn, a simple ritual that had become their Friday tradition. Raphael watched her sleep and felt a deep gratitude flood his chest. That woman had saved him from a life empty of real meaning. She had taught him that wealth was not in bank accounts, but in moments like that, in honest conversations, in shared laughter, in mutual support during storms. Isabella woke up, blinking slowly. "Good morning. Are you watching me sleep again?" Raphael smiled. "Guilty. But you're very beautiful when you sleep." She laughed, stretching. "Flatterer, what time is it?" 9. "I thought I'd make breakfast. Those pancakes you like." "Sounds perfect. But first, come here." She pulled him into a long, sweet kiss. When they separated, she held his face in her hands. "Raphael Sterling, you know I love you, right? Not for your money, not for what you can give me, but for who you are. The kind man who defended me at that party. The man who sat on the stairs and was vulnerable with me. The man who respects my grandmother and my dreams. That's the man I love. And I love you, Isabella Rosewood, for showing me what truly matters, for teaching me to live again, for being you, always authentic, always strong, always full of grace." They stood there embracing, and Raphael thought of Marianne. He knew she would be happy for him. She had always said she didn't want him to be alone, that he deserved to find love again. And he finally understood that loving Isabella didn't diminish the love he had for Marianne. The human heart was big enough to honor the past while embracing the future. They got up and went to the kitchen. While Raphael made pancakes and Isabella brewed coffee, they talked about future plans. Isabella wanted to start a postgraduate degree in special education. Raphael was planning a foundation to build schools in underprivileged communities. Together, they imagined a future where they could make a real difference, using his resources and her experience to change lives. Grandma Laura would come for lunch with them later. Isabella's father had also been invited, a significant step in rebuilding that broken family. It wouldn't be easy, Raphael knew. There was still a lot of pain to process, a lot of forgiveness to be earned, but they had time, and more importantly, they had love, the kind of love that doesn't give up, that chooses to stay even when it's difficult. As they ate pancakes at the small kitchen table, the sun streaming through the window and illuminating Isabella's face, Raphael made a silent promise. He would choose her every day, on good days and on bad days, when it was easy and when it was difficult, because she had given him the greatest gift possible, the chance to truly live. And Isabella, looking at the man who entered her life on the most improbable night, made the same promise. Together they had learned that true love wasn't about grand gestures or material wealth. It was about seeing and being seen. It was about choosing every day to stay and build something real. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Raphael and Isabella has touched your hearts. Sometimes the truest love is born in the most unexpected places, when two lonely souls find solace in each other. This story reminds us that real wealth is not measured in money, but in genuine connections and the courage to be vulnerable. If this narrative moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the beauty and complexity of life and love. We want to know, do you believe that love can cross all social barriers? Share your opinion in the comments below. Until the next story.